Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 2021 AIMI Symposium, sponsored by the Stanford Center for Artificial Intelligence in Medicine and Imaging, or the AIMI Center. I'm Curt Langlotz, director of the AIMI Center, and delighted to have you here for this virtual conference that convenes experts from Stanford and beyond to advance the field of AI in clinical medicine. This year, the meeting is held in conjunction with the second annual Bioethics, Law, and Data Sharing Summit, or the Bold Air Summit. Attendees have the option to participate in either or both events, which are free and open to everyone. I'd like to start just by giving you some background on the AIMI Center and then tell you a little bit about this year's meeting. The AIMI Center has had a fantastic year. First and foremost, a lot of great science. So we published on the use of AI for opportunistic screening of coronary artery disease in Nature Digital Medicine. Other of our faculty have published how to quantify the benefit of using predictive algorithms, including the fact that it depends on the capacity to execute the intervention triggered by the model. We published a multi-institutional prospective clinical trial of the first AI algorithm developed in our center by David Larson, and the clinical trial conducted by Safwan Halabi and a large team. That'll be published in Radiology soon, later this year. We published on the lack of diversity in imaging data sets in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and published on knowledge graph extraction from clinical documents, likely to be published in NeurIPS later this year. We've also developed relationships with many industry affiliates and expected continued growth and partnership in 2022. That's one of the most rewarding things that we do in the center, is bringing together industry and scientists. We're most proud of the community we've built with all of you and the collaborative culture among our faculty, students, postdocs, and staff, and seeing them collaborating every day across disciplines. We've seen continued growth in our faculty. Now we have more than 120 affiliated faculty across 20 departments, predominantly in the schools of medicine and engineering here at Stanford. And we've really developed our relationship and partnership with Stanford's university-wide human-centered AI Institute, including through research. We're co-funding over $1 million in grants, seed grants to Stanford faculty later this year. We also partner on education, not just for this meeting, but for Stanford's AI and Health online meeting, which will be held December 8th and 9th later this year. And we are increasingly collaborating on policy, where we've published policy briefs of interest to leaders in Washington on fairness in healthcare training data, the ethics of data sharing, and one just out on the regulatory frameworks for imaging AI. A little bit about this year's meeting. Coming up today, we have speed networking breakouts at lunch, a new feature, lots of topics for you to choose from, fireside chats, panel discussions, the latest from industry, and of course the scientific content you expect, like translation and implementation of AI, where is AI having its impact today, fairness, generalizability, and new developments in AI research. So we're excited to bring all of it to you, so let's get started. I'd like to begin by introducing John Etchemendy, who will be making a few remarks today on behalf of Stanford and our Human-Centered AI Institute, or HI. John is the Patrick Suppies Family Professor in the Stanford School of Humanities and Sciences and is the co-director of Stanford HI with Fei-Fei Li, who we'll also be hearing from shortly. John was Stanford's 12th and longest serving provost. He's currently a professor of philosophy and symbolic systems. In his 35 years as Stanford faculty member, John has also served as director of the Center for Study of Language and Information, chair of the philosophy department, and senior associate dean for the School of Humanities and Sciences. We want to give special thanks to John and Fei-Fei. HI is and continues to be an invaluable partner with the AIMI Center in the promotion of AI to improve health. And John, we're absolutely delighted that you could be here with us today.
I'm delighted to be taking part in the AIMI Symposium today and to be co-sponsoring with AIMI the Bold Air Summit taking place tomorrow. At HAI, or HI as we pronounce it, We value our partnership with AIMI on events such as this, and in providing research funding for projects at the intersection of our overlapping spheres of interest. The mission of Stanford High is to advance AI research, education, policy, and practice to improve the human condition. This is a very broad mission that reaches across the entire university, from medicine to law to the humanities and education. It also reaches well beyond the university to industry, government, and civil society. High's research mission has three very broad focus areas, which we refer to using the letters H, A, and I as mnemonics. H stands for human impact. We believe that the development of AI must be guided by an understanding of its human and societal impact. Accordingly, the H focus encompasses research aimed at understanding how AI technology will impact people, institutions, the economy, and society. One major effort that falls under this heading is our Digital Economy Lab, which focuses on issues like the future of work in the age of AI. But we also fund artists who are exploring, through their creations, the more immediate human impact of AI, and engineers who are envisioning the cities of the future. The letter A stands for augmenting human capabilities. We believe that the first and best use of AI technology is to augment humans, not to replace them, and to enhance human well-being through applications that allow us to accomplish tasks that are currently impossible or impractical. Here's where our partnership with AIMI comes into play, since virtually all the work that falls under the AIMI umbrella is focused directly or indirectly on augmenting and enhancing human well-being. But we also partner with other parts of the university, such as the Precourt Institute for Energy, looking at applications of AI to energy generation and distribution, and the School of Education, developing AI-enhanced tools for teaching and learning. Last but not least, the letter I stands for intelligence. AI is not a static or even particularly mature technology, and this focus area looks to the future. We believe that future generations of AI will be inspired by our growing understanding of human intelligence, understanding gained from advances in both the neurosciences and the behavioral sciences. Here we look to partner with the Wu Tsai Institute for Neurosciences, as well as research labs in the departments of psychology and psychiatry. Our work at High is not limited to research. We have very ambitious and active programs focused on technology policy and educational outreach. Earlier this year, we successfully sponsored legislation that takes the first steps toward establishing a national research cloud, a research infrastructure that would provide both computational support and government data sets for use by researchers at universities and independent research labs. High also produces policy briefs and educational programs that allow us to bring the results of Stanford research to policymakers worldwide. I look forward to today's symposium, which covers a range of topics that all fall squarely within the human-centered focus of Stanford High. And I encourage participants, whether at Stanford or outside, to visit High's website at hai.stanford.edu and to sign up to receive our weekly newsletter to keep informed about our programs and activities. Thank you and enjoy the day.
Well, thank you, John, for that terrific opening and setting the stage for our discussions today. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Lungren. I'm an associate professor of radiology and the co-director of the Stanford Center for Artificial Intelligence and Medicine Imaging. And I'd like to echo Curt's opening remarks and thank you all for attending today and continuing to enrich our AIMI community with your engagement. Before I formally introduce our next keynote speaker, I'll say that we occasionally encounter real-life superheroes in our lives and careers. These are people whose passion and enthusiasm drive not only their own incredible accomplishments, but inspire and lift up others. And the interesting thing about these super successful individuals is that to them, their success is kind of an afterthought, more of a byproduct of their incredible sense of purpose. It's a phenomenon described best in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, where he says, achieving great success is done not as a target, but as an unintended side effect of a personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, and a byproduct of surrendering to that cause. And so I think that's just the perfect description of our next speaker, Andrew Ng. He's the founder of deeplearning.ai, founder and CEO of Landing AI, general partner at AI Fund, chairman and co-founder of Coursera, and an adjunct professor at Stanford University in the Department of Computer Science. As a pioneer both in machine learning and online education, Dr. Ng has changed countless lives through his work and research in the field of artificial intelligence. His hundreds of research papers have gained more than 200,000 citations, cementing his status as one of the most influential pioneers of artificial intelligence in the world. And he's coined the description of AI as the new electricity, which has dedicated a significant proportion of his career to ensuring that anyone with any background can learn to understand this powerful new technology. His early work in healthcare and medical imaging contributed to the massive acceleration of clinical machine learning applications and serves as the example for how multidisciplinary teams from computer science and healthcare can come together to learn from one another and in the process tackle some of the most important problems facing humanity. He is a brilliant scientist, a tremendous collaborator, and a wonderful friend. Please join me in welcoming Andrew Ng.
Thank you, Matt. And to you watching this from home or wherever you are, it's nice to see you here at the AIMI Symposium 2021. So for many years, we've sort of known that healthcare and AI holds a lot of promise. AI will transform, or at least it's certainly supposed to transform healthcare. There have been tons of research papers over the last decade, or even over the last many decades, and tons of research progress. But we're not yet there. I had to see a doctor the other week because my arm was hurting and there was no AI, as far as I could tell, that was helping to diagnose what was wrong with my arm. My arm is fine, by the way, don't worry about me. And I'm excited about today's program with panels and speakers to help paint a vision for the near and long-term future of AI and healthcare. And I think it's really to Curt Langlotz, Matt Lungren, and Nigam Shah's credit to have the vision to have put this symposium together. What I hope to do is share with you 3 lessons I've learned working in healthcare, in fact, often in collaboration with Curt, Matt, and Nigam, maybe that point to some future trends and some things that all of us could collectively work on to advance this grand vision of using AI to help healthcare and help tons of patients around the world. One of the most exciting trends I'm seeing in AI is a shift from model-centric to data-centric AI. And this will help many applications in healthcare become a reality. I think the most important shift that AI went through in the last decade was the shift to deep learning. I think in this decade, the most important shift that AI has to go through is a shift from model-centric AI toward data-centric AI. Here's what I mean. Most research groups are used to downloading a data set and holding the data fixed while they improve the software or the model or the code. But what I'm seeing is that thanks to all the progress that tons of teams around the world have made, for many applications, not all, but many applications, the code or the model or the software is basically a solved problem. And instead, what's missing, the gap, is getting the sufficiently high quality data to feed to the neural network or whatever's the model to get you the performance you need to use and deploy these systems. Now, today, we tend to rely on highly skilled machine learning engineers to maybe hack around, in a Jupyter notebook or in a computer to try to discover the problems with the data and maybe through skill or luck, find the problems and fix it. But I think over this decade, as we move toward the data-centric approach to AI, the urgent research need will be to invent the tools and techniques and principles so that we can all become much more systematic at entering the data we need to feed to our learning algorithms. I think organizations like AIMI have also contributed substantially to open data, and that's needed to advance science. But I think just as over the last decade, there were, maybe tens of thousands of research papers and innovations needed to take machine learning models to the current level of sophistication. Over the next decade, I think there'll also be tens of thousands or more of research papers and innovations needed to take entering the data systematic and with that, we'll have both the software, the code, as well as the data we need to train and deploy valuable models for healthcare. A second lesson I want to share with you is the importance of ML ops, or machine learning operations. ML ops is a nascent field, but we see today that a lot of applications have a POC or proof of concept to a production gap. Often you see researchers, sometimes me, publish a paper saying, hey, on the holdout test set, we do really, really well. But despite all of these papers showing that AI algorithms, learning algorithms, can have very good diagnostic accuracy, even sometimes comparable, sometimes even better than a clinician. Despite those research papers, these systems are hardly used in practical deployed healthcare settings. Why is that? Well, it turns out that even when you have a research result, as many of you know, there's often a big gap, a lot of work needed to put that into production in a safe and responsible way. The nascent and growing field of ML ops, or machine learning operations, I hope will make this process of building and deploying machine learning systems much more systematic. So whereas a lot of the focus has been on training neural network models or other machine learning models, I think it's time for us to think about the entire life cycle of a machine learning project, which includes scoping the project, deciding what to do and what not to do, collecting and defining and systematically labeling and gathering the data, to training and improving the model, and then finally deploying the model in production and monitoring and maintenance. So machine learning projects aren't just modeling, they're actually project scoping, data collection and definition, then modeling, and then finally deployment, monitoring, and maintenance. And ML ops tools, I hope, will make it much more systematic and much more efficient for all of us collective as a field to go through not just the modeling part, which academia is focused on, but the entire life cycle of a machine learning project, and to make that 10 times faster, 100 times faster, while also ensuring that we can have the tools to protect patient privacy, make sure with the performance auditing in place, ensure safety, make sure that we check for bias and fairness. And this, I think, will help us take many more machine learning models into practical deployments. And then finally, the third and final lesson, this probably already obvious to many of you, but still worth saying, is the importance of clinical as well as computer science teams collaborating. What I see, even on the Stanford campus and elsewhere, is interest and demand on both sides. I talk to clinicians with brilliant ideas that on things we could try, applications we could try, and pairing them up with computer scientists to get these things implemented, I think will help us move forward. I also see tons of brilliant computer scientists, sometimes students, sometimes faculty, sometimes others, interested in work on healthcare, and that if we connect them to the valuable and useful clinical use cases, that will help us, again, move the field forward. So as the field of AI in healthcare continues to grow, I think all of us collectively making sure we have the right collaborators will help set up the partnerships and collaborations that will move the field forward. Just myself, my background is computer science and machine learning, and I've tried over the years to learn from my friends at AIMI, from my father who's a doctor, from medical friends around the world, a little bit about healthcare. But frankly, I couldn't have done any of the work I did in healthcare if not for the great friendships and partnerships that I have had. And I hope that every other computer scientist that wants it will be able to set up great partnerships with clinical teams, and also every clinical team that wants it will be able to set up great partnerships with computer science teams so they can all pool our knowledge and get projects done that maybe each of us individually with just narrow expertise would find it harder to execute. And so one of the reasons I'm excited about AIMI and a strong supporter of the organization is because I think organizations like AIMI can play a huge role in bringing these collaborations together. So AI in healthcare, I continue to think that we are on a path, probably a long path. It's not going to happen in a few months or even in a small number of years, but I think we collectively are on an exciting journey to build AI systems that will help millions or hundreds of millions or billions of people around the world with their healthcare needs. I expect this to be a long journey that will take many, many years with many, many bumps along the road. But if we adopt more of a data-centric AI mindset, start to build MLOps tools and keep on bringing these clinical and CS teams together, then I think all of us collectively will be able to make faster progress on this journey. It is good to see you here in this symposium. I am looking forward to the rest of the program, and I hope you are too.
All right. So thank you, Andrew, for that wonderful talk and the partnership. And I would again reiterate that the partnership between computer scientists and clinicians on this campus, which dates back to the 70s and has been carried on till today, I think is one of the few things that keeps us, where we're enables us to do what we're able to do. So now, sort of moving ahead, I would like to welcome Dr. Fei-Fei Li, who practically doesn't need much introduction, but aside from the stuff you can find on the internet, she's a professor in computer science, co-director of the AIMI Center, a wonderful person, collaborator. I've had the good fortune of collaborating with her students. But amongst the few things that might not be on the internet is that she's probably amongst the few computer scientists who's spoken about AI with the Vatican. I don't know that many people who can talk about AI with the Pope, okay? So, I mean, that's, like, you can't put metrics on that. Like, that's an achievement beyond excellence. And she's been recognized in multiple forums. She's a member of the National Academy of Engineering, Medicine, and AAAS, which is a unique honor to be part of all three. And her ideas about getting the right data, which he started in 2006 with ImageNet, have sort of percolated throughout, and we just heard about it from Andrew as well. And the latest focus on the human aspect is something that we're really sort of passionate about and follow Fei-Fei's leadership on, particularly in the AIMI Center. So with that, I invite Fei-Fei to sort of share her thoughts with us, and the floor is yours.